on this side, and it is recording. And so I'd like to say we did make it. We are live, Facebook, and we are online and backing it up here, recording it from the computer and also on Facebook. I am Dan Ringwald, your host today from the Santa Barbara Real Estate Investor Association. And welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in here and checking this out. First of all, I'm going to come over here to, I'd like to say that Karen Hall texted me this morning. She said that she, due to circumstances, couldn't make it. So we are going to reschedule her for another day. So what do you have? You got me today, and we're going to just do something different. You know, what I see when things like this happen is it's an opportunity. So I look at anything that can go wrong. They say, don't worry, nothing can go wrong, go wrong, go wrong. Well, you know what? When it does, I look for the opportunity to turn it into something better and fun. And so we're going to go over how you could possibly get $40,000 worth of 3 Tesla batteries for free today. Okay, now you and I both know that probably everybody in the world isn't going to qualify for that. There's only going to be a few that will, and I'm going to go over the details of that. But before I do go over the details of that, I'd like to give a little bit of a message from our sponsor. And I know you're thinking, oh no, not commercials, not advertising. Who's his sponsor? Actually, today the sponsor is me. I'm going to go through a couple of things and give you a little bit of information about real estate because that's why you did come here. And then we're going to move on to going green and why this is of great importance to a lot of people as we move forward. Um, so let's do this. Let's go through here and we're going to share the screen. I'm going to come over here and do a little screen sharing there. We're going to grab that. We're going to come over the screen and there. And now we're sharing the screen and there is the Tesla Powerwalls in the background. You know, they say you should have some pictures here and there so that it reminds you of what your goals are and what you're doing. And I usually put this as a screen background on my computer, different things that projects I'm working on to remind me of what to do and where to go. So what we're going to do is come over here and take a look at some real estate information just so you get kind of an idea of what's going on here. This is the Santa Barbara Real Estate Investor Association. We normally meet at the courtyard, but as you know, due to COVID-19, nobody's meeting anywhere to a large degree. So everything is virtual. You know, a lot of good things happening virtual. I basically have a business as well, which is NH Big Inc., National Home Buyers Investors Group. And we buy and sell properties nationwide. And just to give you an idea, we've sold off about 20 properties in the Midwest. We are heading more toward the West Coast, back to where we used to do most of our business, and you know, California, Oregon, Washington, and doing wholesaling. So while we're doing the wholesaling, you know, there is, probably, I'd say, a good reason for me to kind of get out of the Midwest, come to California, mainly because I want to focus on wholesaling on higher priced properties. The lower priced properties that we had in the Midwest, they were good, they were okay, but they didn't perform as well as I had hoped or wished they would. So I've decided to not do that, to come over to California, do the high end stuff. It paid to some degree for the low end stuff. It did, you know, work out to some degree, but it's kind of like going to high school. We've all been to high school. Do we want to go back and do it again? Not really. Had fun, but that's how I feel about most of my investments in the Midwest. There are great places out there, higher end properties and higher end homes. They will work with rentals and lease to own. We were doing mostly lower. So just kind of been there, done that, and don't want to go back. On lease to own, it's going to take you just as much time to do a property that's, well, for instance, I've got a property I'm listing right here in Santa Barbara that's 2,090,000, and a lot of information there. We did a little walkthrough, did a virtual tour. And so if it takes the same amount of time to go through and do a house that's much more expensive, then why work on a $100,000 home on a wholesale? There just isn't enough money to be made. And if it's no money out of your pocket to do wholesaling, it's not a whole lot of responsibility. You've got some contracts that you're just assigning. As long as you do it properly, you're not acting like a realtor, you're good to go. So that's what we're doing here through NHBig. I've also got a training page here that you can go to, and it's got all the information about all the software here that's available that I have available to you. And if you're paying for the training, which you'll more likely do since we don't have 3 days, 30 days after a meeting at the courtyard, Marriott Courtyard, it would basically get down to paid training. But we're only talking $600 a year, access to me full time, as much as you need during that period. And I'm here to help you get through this. It shows you basically how much you're going to get in the beginning for doing the training and bringing the information in. I make it as easy as possible. There you go. Beginning associates make basically 10%. So if I make $100,000 on a wholesale deal here in California, and you help me find that property, then you get 10%. So I get 90, you get 10,000, and you're paid right out of escrow. I don't even have them pay me. I have them pay you. So that's kind of how we work that. Now, also, I've got, another thing going on here, which is national home buyers. These are the homes that we actually own out of an LLC. They're two different types of businesses. So that's investment income, not earned income. And then I've also got Santa Barbara Computing Services, and the Personal Power Project is where we're going to talk about all of this Tesla stuff. So, kind of going back and thinking about, well, what happens when something unexpected happens and you can't do what you thought you were going to do? Let me just give you a quick little feeling for, and I'm going to stop the sharing here for a moment. New, let's see, participants. Let's just go back here and see. No, okay. So in any case, I used to work at the University, California, Santa Barbara, and worked there for about 26 years. And out of that time, I created a computer service organization. We, did training on campus, did repair, all kinds of things. And one of my claim to fame is helping me and a student to get ucsb.edu up and running. That was something we created. We ran it for about 4 years. But when we, had a meeting on campus to do some training one day, they made a mistake, put us in the wrong room through UC Extension, and basically, I walked in there and went, "Oh, where is everybody?" They were across campus, so I went across campus and said, "Hey, all the equipment's over here. We can't do it over there." And they said, "Well, you can't move them." And I said, "Yeah, I guess we're going to have to." So I just moved them all over across campus. And sometimes, you just got to do what you got to do when there's changes. And so that's what we're doing here today. We're doing what we got to do and moving on. And we are going to talk about how to get 3 Tesla Powerwalls for free. So if we come back and look, these Tesla Powerwalls right here, there's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, and this right here is the panel, the wall panel of different equipment that's housed here to take care of this. If we take a look at my site here for the Personal Power Project, that right there that you're looking at is actually a view out of our front room, living room. So, why are we needing these batteries? Because we're up in the mountains of Santa Barbara where they turn the power off all the time. And, When we've had our meetings down at the courtyard, I've asked people in there might be 30 people in there, and said, well, let's see hands of how many people actually lost their power. Nobody really did. Not even for 6 months. So, it really depends on where you live and what you're doing as to how important this is to you and what you need. But I can guarantee you one thing, and we're going to take some looks at some stats here. As time goes on and you eventually end up with an electric vehicle, an EV, and you start looking at the usage of power in your home, you're going to be surprised about how much power that thing sucks up. And it is a lot. Now, it's still cheaper than gas, it's still more convenient, but as the rates for power go up, you absolutely are going to want to look for ways to reduce your power consumption and figure out how to balance all this stuff, because SCE, PG&E, and all the electric companies nationwide, they are not going to go down in price. They're going to continue to go up. One of the things that most people don't realize is that, power that you use in your home is actually 70% of that is actually the transmission cost, running those transmission lines to your house. So 30% of that is the power you actually use. So when you look at your bill and you think, how come my bill is so high? Well, that's why it's so high. And getting that cost lowered would take them to bury those lines underground rather than have them be above ground, because that's where the problem is. Trees are crashing into them, all kinds of problems are happening. The power lines are, setting fire to the mountains and the hills, and the solution is to bury them, but it's $1 million per mile above ground, and it's $3 million per mile below ground. So imagine that your bill went up 3 times what it is now because they buried all those. That's not going to happen. Not going to happen anytime soon. It probably will never happen, especially when they figure that people are going to go solar anyway. So this gives you an idea here, the Personal Power Project website. We are an affiliate here for Tesla. As you can see here, if I click on this affiliate link, that will bring up the Tesla website, and what it says there is save with Dan's referral. So you've probably heard that different people have referral links to Tesla and other kinds of companies. We do too. It's not a big money maker for me because I don't spend a whole lot of time promoting it, but there are people that promote this stuff like crazy, and they've won Tesla Roadster and all kinds of stuff because they've got huge, attraction on their YouTube sites for that kind of stuff. And, it's a fun game to play. And I've seen some people actually win it. And it's amazing that they are. But in any case, so we have that available. Let me get back out of that. And if you do want to get anything through Tesla, you can get it through us. We get a little bit for that. You get a little bit for that. In fact, my daughter just got a Model 3, and I was her affiliate for that referral, and she got 1,000 miles of free charge because she went through me and the website here. So let's give you a quick little rundown on power. I'm going to let you listen to this for just a minute and what these batteries will have to help you with.
Blackouts. Everything is going fine, and then, bam, you're in the dark. Some folks have an old-fashioned generator, but they're loud, dirty, and need to be fed gas. Now, there's a better way. The home battery. Using batteries like in your laptop or electric car, you can now have instantaneous backup power when a blackout hits. There's no noise, no pollution, just continuous power. It lasts over 24 hours. And if you've got solar panels, it keeps going and going. In fact, you can go off-grid entirely. But a home battery isn't just for emergencies. It can save you money every day by charging during off-peak times and automatically kicking in when electricity is most expensive. With a home battery, you ensure clean, secure, inexpensive power for your home. And with a battery in every home, we can take control of our power, together reducing our need for old, dirty power plants. To To learn more about your home battery options, head to swellenergy.com today, and we'll show you a way out of the dark.
Okay, so yes, Well is actually where I work to get my batteries. Now, they did come through Tesla. I'm a Tesla affiliate, and probably wondering, well, if I'm a Tesla affiliate, why didn't I just go through Tesla directly? Well, one of the problems Tesla had was I can't get them to come in to my meetings and basically show people who they are, what they're doing, because they've gotten a lot bigger. We've had people in the past that were able to do that, but currently we're not able to do that because they're just a lot more, hesitant about running out there and doing those kinds of things than they have been in the past. So we have to be a little bit sensitive about what's going on there. I'm going to unshare this here for just a minute. Stop sharing. There we go. And, if I can't get people to come out to the meetings and speak, I can't give you the information in the way that I might be able to and tell you some things that you might not know. Um, so I went ahead and I went through Swell, and really, it started off getting one battery. I figured, okay, it was $15,000 per battery. The batteries through Tesla are probably six, seven, 8,000, something like that. But by the time you get through with the infrastructure that goes in place and the contractors and everybody involved, you're looking at about 10 to 15,000 somewhere in there for, the total installation. They said that I could get 3,000 off. They had a plan and it would give me a discount. So we started this probably around January of 2020 this year and got through probably 5, 6 months, 8 months, something like that, and got through the permit process, got some of the infrastructure in place, all ready to have the battery delivered and set up. We were about 2 weeks away from that. And my wife said, "Hey, Dan, did you see this? You can get these things for free now." And I kind of had a little bit of an idea that was coming up. And so I dug into it and I talked to the people, and they said, yeah, well, it might be if you qualify, but the only way to find out if you qualify is to cancel your order and start all over again. And I thought, oh God, I don't want to go through another 8 months of this. And then I got to thinking, a lot of infrastructure is in place, a lot of the permit process was done, all this stuff was done. If I cancel, it's not like they're going to have to really start everything over from scratch. And it's not like I'm going someplace else and ditching Swell, who's what they call the developer, or ditching my contractor, which was Sunrise 805, Marshall Howen, who did a great job. I'm still going to end up going through them, but I'm going to, I called them back up at Swell and I said, well, it sounds like I can get one for free. And if that's the case, I don't want one. And they said, you don't want one? And I said, not really. And they looked at me like, are you crazy? And I said, well, the reason I don't want one is because I want three. You know, if they're free, and I qualify, I'd much rather have three. I've watched a lot of videos where people had one and they went, it's okay, it's great, but it's just not enough. We need a little bit more. Some people with two said, it's really pretty much all I need. And some people have said, well, it's almost all I need. And I just thought, well, what the heck? If I qualify for three, then why not? So they did. We went through the process and it was pretty grueling. It took a lot of my communicating back with everybody to try to make it all happen. And the big gotcha was, will it really be free or will it be a bait and switch? Biggest number one fear everybody has besides public speaking is getting conned. Nobody wants to get conned, right? And believe me, doing real estate, I've been conned a lot for a lot of things. So I wanted to make sure that if I was going to promote this and help people with this, I could do it in a fashion where they didn't have to worry about that. And what I realized from talking to the state of California, which if I'm going to give some thanks here, might as well start out right now saying thank you, taxpayers, because I had to figure out, well, where's this money coming from? Who's actually paying for it? Who's responsible for giving me a check when it's all over? Turns out that all of us taxpayers in California are paying for these programs of how I got my three for free. Okay, $40,000 worth of Tesla batteries. The state collects the taxes. They have a program, SGIP, and we can get into that. You can see what that is. And then they dole that money out to the utility companies like SCE. And then SCE will eventually give me a check if the developer and the contractor and all of us do our job right and it gets passes inspection. The developer, which is swell, basically takes in all the paperwork and handles a lot of the equipment, getting it from Tesla and other places, and puts that in the hands of the contractor, which in this case was Marshall Howen, Sunrise 805 here in Santa Barbara. And then, it all gets installed, and then they come back and the county inspects. They get passed, we get passed off, and the SCE finally comes out after it's all installed and all said and done, gives us a check. Well, what do they give us a check for? They give us a check because you actually have to go out and get a loan first in the hopes that this is all going to work and then you're going to get paid off by SCE. That's a big hope. That's a big roll of the dice, I know. And a lot of people just aren't going to do that. And I noticed from the websites by the state program, SGIP program, that they're trying to get a program where they don't have to get people to get loans up front. They just give them the equipment, it's all handled. Now, when that happens, everybody's going to have their hands up like, oh, me, I want it, I want it. Until then, there's a lot of people that are just going to go, nah, that's way too risky for me. I don't want to go down that road. And I certainly understand that, especially $40,000 worth. And as we got our system up and running, my wife and I ran it for, a few days, and it's only really been maybe a week now. And we looked at each other and went, okay, so if we never got paid back the $40,000, we would have a loan for that, which is going to cost us about $350 a month for the next 10 years. Okay. If this works and it actually cuts down our power usage, because we do have solar, we've had solar for 7 years, we figure we're paying about $3,500 a year for utilities, even though we have solar. Okay, we were paying 7 years ago about $400 a month for our electric bill. That was 7 years ago. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised that if we didn't have solar and we didn't have backup batteries, if we were paying 4 then, we might be up to 6 now a month. That's 6,000 a year. So if we were able to save $350 a month from these batteries, and we're paying $350 a month basically for the solar or for the power from Edison, then we'd break even. Okay, so what is, going through all this break even? Okay, so how important is that to us? To us, as you're going to see, is very important because our power is off all the time here. For other people, it would not be that important because their power is not off that much. So they're kind of like, well, what's the big deal? Who cares? For people in our situation, breaking even and having stable power all the time, that's pretty important, especially if you're trying to run a business from your home. During the pandemic, where you can't do regular business other places, it's a big deal. So let's do this. Let's go back to the screen share again, and let's take a look at some of these facts and figures and different things that are going on. Oops, let me get back out of that. I don't think, stop the screen sharing. We're going to try it one more time. I want to make sure that's checked. Yep, that's checked. So this works properly. So we're in the screen sharing, and we're going to go back over and take a look at a few things. Okay, let's take a look at some pictures here. And here we go. This is what happens in our neighborhood when they come to replace the power poles. And that's why the power has been going out. Now, they have been replacing power poles up in our area for a couple of years, year and a half now, easy. That helicopter has hanging below it, not a Jesus cross. It certainly looks like one, but it is a telephone pole. Okay. If we take a look at what's happening in our area, this is from our house looking to the left of our house down towards Santa Barbara in this area down here where the helicopter is, and there's a pole down here. They're taking out a pole, bringing in a new pole. Okay. You can kind of see a little arm down here from a machine that's helping out another truck over here, but basically because of the topography out here in this area, it's not easy to get this stuff in and out, so they have to do it with helicopters. A little close up of that, give you an idea what that looks like. So this is going on all the time. Now, when this happens, they close the roads. You can't get in or out. It's shut down for the day. You've got no power. And, 2, 3, 4 times a week is announced that it's going to happen. And other times it happens, they just say, due to circumstances. And that's kind of what I said with Karen. They're not going to get into details. We're not going to get into details. They're just saying, sorry. And if you said, well, what were the circumstances? It's like, hey, we'll send you if you want to talk about your bill, we'll talk about that and we'll send you out the bill. But, don't bother us about the circumstances. We're not telling you. So let's take a quick little look at what happens here.
And look what's in the background there. It's our power company, SCE, taking out the power lines, bringing in new poles and bringing in new transformers so they can stop all the fires in these high fire areas. They got some major stuff going on here today. I've been watching them and it looks like a tough job. Not something I'd want to do. Looks dangerous as hell. But hey, that's why they get paid the big bucks, right? They're earning it. Huh. So much for the septic genie. That's the easy job.
What was that little creature crawling? Ah,
and there it goes. Another pull. Take it away. SCE. Look at that sucker swing. I'd sure hate to be down there walking around if that thing just cut loose and dropped. Goodbye.
So you can kind of see why they block the roads. It's a dangerous game. And there is the Sunrise 805 people installing things. You can see right here is our manual override switch. It's got this little lever right there. And down here is for our generator if all else fails. So they came up about a week ago and installed all this stuff. I had to get the new panels in. They're putting in the batteries. There's 2 of them in there already. These are big batteries, like 260 pounds each. So they got it going. It looks good. I looked at that at about that point there and I went, oh my God, that's a lot of wire. That's a lot of stuff going in there. If you look at this, that is the gateway to the internal part of it. And basically what that does is it says, hey, we've lost the power from SCE. We're going to shut them off and turn them off, and we're going to switch over to the Tesla batteries. Now that has to be in place. Otherwise, the other thing that people don't realize is that all solar installed anywhere worldwide, if it doesn't have backup batteries, when the power goes off, the solar doesn't work. It's useless. It does nothing during that period of time. So for the last 7 years, we've sat around in all these power outages and just got no solar, got no help, got nothing but our, little generator to keep us going. So This is the device that they put in there that says, hey, if the power fails, then we can use the batteries, but this device here is going to be powered by the batteries to ensure that none of this battery power goes back out on the power lines and shocks any of the power line workers when they're trying to deal with all that stuff. That was the big reason that they wouldn't let that solar continue to work, is because it would shock the people out there trying to do work on the lines, because that power would be going back to them. They would have to rely on you manually going on out there and turning it off. And they're not going to do that. They don't want to worry about you manually doing that. They want to make sure it's done. And this is what makes sure it's done, that gateway. And this is Tesla's second generation gateway 2. This over here is a manual power switch. If all else failed and all these batteries died and this died and everything died and we got nuked or whatever, probably wouldn't even be able to do the backup generator. But in any case, if we needed it, I just grab this lever here, pull it down to the bottom. That disconnects this over here from the power lines, and then I plug in down here to this, which is an outlet for my generator, and we're back up with power from our backup generator. This over here are circuits, some phone stuff, and the battery. And then over here, a little 110 out. So that's kind of how all that works. So let's go on here. More guys helping out. This is what it used to look like. There is my newer generator, and that is a hybrid. That is a Duramax 12,000. It really will power basically everything in our house. And it's got a couple connectors. One is 20 amp, one is 30 amp. And then it goes back over here to this plug, okay? So this was the old board. All the old equipment, you notice everything's gone right now. There's nothing there. And this was the death of my old generator, which worked great for 10 years. It had the cable going down to it. It plugged into my old generator. But after about 10 years, I got lazy and I wasn't paying attention. And I just happened to have it plugged in still when I threw the switch on SCE when the power came back on. Power came back on to the house, threw the cable to the generator and fried it. When I heard that sound, I went, ooh, that's a familiar sound. That's not a good one. I turned the switch off real quick, looked at the generator, didn't see smoke, and I just connected everything, and started it up and it ran. But the next time I went to try and use it, when we had a power outage, the electronics fried. It was no good. So I had to go out and get a brand new propane generator. And let me tell you a little bit about propane generators and gas. This is gas. The blue tank is gas. Propane doesn't go into the blue tank. It hooks in down here someplace. Propane lasts forever. You could have 4 or 5 propane tanks sitting around your property for 5 years, and the day you go plug that propane in and use it, it's just as good as it was 5 years ago. You have gasoline sitting around for 6 months, and now you have to add additives and all kinds of things just to have that gasoline be decent and work. So I have never put gasoline in this generator, and I never will. I will only use propane because it's a lot more convenient, easy. You could hook it up to a huge tank, whatever, and you'd be good to go. Probably unlikely that I'm ever going to need this thing again, but if I ever do, it sits in this little plastic container here, and I'm good to go if I ever need it. So that was the old way. Sometimes they say the old way is the best. Well, getting out there in the middle of the night and having to hook this thing up, or early in the morning in the snow, it does snow up here once in a great while. No fun, so I'd much rather do it the new way. And that absolutely is the new way. And I cannot tell you how happy we are. My wife looked at me, Maria, and said, oh yeah, even if we break even, I have no problem, having paid 40,000 because it's so much better than living life like we were. Well, again, for people who didn't have their power go out all the time, it's not that big a deal, and it's probably something you go, well, maybe someday I'll need it. Okay, and we'll talk about that someday. This is the back side of those batteries. Okay, here, if you go back over here, here's the side that they connect into. And I don't know if you would call this, well, it's the left side and then the right side. And this is the front. Okay, so that's the left side. Let's go look at the right side. The right side has these little green strips which flash off and on when it's charging or discharging, and it's solid green when it's just sitting there charged up and doing nothing, just waiting to be used. That's very much like their app, their Tesla app that's on your phone for running your car and everything else. So that's very handy to kind of see what's going on there. Now let's just take a little look here at Marshall and my son is there, Michael.
He doesn't want to do that because fuck it up. No, because he doesn't want to blow dirt into it. Gotcha.
Okay, Marshall, I got you. 8:05,
Sunrise 8:05.
8:05. Marshall, you did a fantastic job
thank
here.
you, Marshall, I know this was probably a huge pain in the ass and all this shit. I've been hearing about this for like a fucking year, but
Well,
thank you for making it happen.
Other than me being the biggest pain in the ass, which I know I was, what would you say was the most difficult of this whole job, making it happen?
Wow. You know, it's just the logistics, things being tight. It's a fun project because it's certainly one off, but yeah, I mean, and it's only the second 3 Powerwall installation we've done.
Really?
Yeah, it's relatively new.
Well, and
So-
mainly because it was free, that's what they're saying. And so, you know,
Yeah.
we'll cross our fingers, hope all that works out. But, you know, when they said, you know, we're giving away free, that's what I said. Okay, I don't want 1, I want 3.
Yeah,
and they
as
said,
many as you'll give me.
and they somehow they approved it. It was kind of like, it felt like in the beginning they weren't going to approve 3, but I guess they decided, you know, okay.
Yeah, you bet.
I mean, it looks great, and like being able to put it to use is that's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, so we'll be back as I mentioned Thursday. Get it commissioned, everything.
And this right here is, what is that called?
That's the gateway.
That's the gateway.
That's the new gateway 2.
It's the new gateway too.
Yep.
Of Teslas. Okay. Gateway, and then we've got a manual shut off here,
Yeah, manual transfer switch.
and all the main lines coming in there. The batteries down there, telephone, an outlet for the generator. That's for just in case all else fails. We've got that.
I can see why it was important to get that little stand for it, so you can have something that supports it.
Yeah.
You think that concrete's
Yeah,
good enough to
it's
do the job?
200.
Each one?
265 pounds.
That's like
apiece.
800 pounds
Yeah.
total.
260 a piece?
Yeah.
And you just manhandle it onto there today?
Him and a couple other guys.
Oh, yeah, the guy. Okay,
Yeah.
because I was going, dang, Marshall.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Well, Marshall, I'm absolutely going to be promoting you guys and seeing if I can help send some more business your way.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan.
I
Appreciate that.
really appreciate your
Very
work
much.
here.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, yes, he did a great job. I am so happy. Now, if you're wondering what it sounds like next to those power supplies, those 3 Tesla Powerwalls, that noise you heard in the background was not those power supplies. That was my pump, my water pump for the water tank. And it's noisy. You heard it in the background. If you wonder what these batteries sound like, here's what they sound like. Did you hear anything? No, because you won't hear anything. They are absolutely quiet and silent. So everybody's so happy to, you know, have that peace and quiet. When everybody else is running these loud generators, you've got, you know, this thing absolutely quiet. And I was stunned. I was here at my desk doing some stuff on the internet, looking up information about, you know, the app, the Tesla, the Powerwalls and all that. And the first power failure went off, you know, and it was planned. They shut the power off. The screen didn't blink, the lights didn't blink. The only thing I heard were a power supply under my desk go click, click, and that was it. And everything just acted like nothing happened, and it just had switched over that quickly when the power was turned off by SCE. So that is basically what to expect, especially with the new Gateway 2. I think things are acting a little bit faster, but there is solar installation and cleaning Sunrise 805, number 805-895-6096, license California. Up here installing all that good stuff on a beautiful Santa Barbara sunny day. You can see the ocean and island in the background. So, you know, it was heaven just to see all this stuff happening, and after months and months of working on this. So let's talk a little bit about the Tesla app. For all you people out there that have Tesla cars but no solar and no batteries, this Tesla app is exactly the same app that you use for your car. You just have features on there for your car. Once you have solar and a battery, then you've also got features on there for your solar and your battery. And this is what it looks like. You can see right now it's at 68, and that was this morning. I ran some tests on it, and actually right now it's been charging up during the day here. It's now up to, and that was about up, it's up to 93. Okay, so it went from 68 to 93 over a period of maybe 2, 3 hours, something like that. So it's going to hit 100 before the day is up. Okay. I was thinking about trying to do this live for you so you could, see me and see the outside and me walk up there by the tank and do all this kind of stuff and, have me run some of this program here live, which I can do. All I do is I bring in my cell phone to this Zoom meeting as another participant and I display all this stuff up there and you can see it. But as I ran a quick test this morning, I went, the audio is not so good. The internet connections, kind of coming off and on. If I lose this in the middle of it, I'm going to have a lot of people not too happy. I just went, no, let's not go there. Let's not do that. One of the things that I discovered while going through looking at these different videos, like I was talking about, was on a couple of days when they had back-to-back outages, it looked like our power walls were going to drain down to the point we'd have to go back to the generator. So I got back to Tesla tech support and I talked to them and I said, hey, I don't see a feature on here that lets me charge the batteries from the grid, only from solar. And they said, that's correct. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, because it is a federal regulation mandating that you cannot and they will not allow any charging of home batteries from the grid. And I'm like, what? She said, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. What? And she said, I don't have an explanation. It's not my job. That's not, I'm the technical person here for handling these calls, but I'm not the lawyer or, the politician or anything else. And that's the law. I said, well, then let me get this straight. If I have a Tesla car and I want to charge my car batteries, I can charge those batteries from the grid. And she said, that's correct. And I said, if I don't have solar and I just have Tesla batteries, I can charge those batteries from the grid. And she goes, that's correct. And we even have a feature on your app to do that. And I said, but as soon as I have solar, it's a federal law that even though I might need it in a rare occasion, they're going to mandate and not let anybody back up their batteries from the grid because of some weird thing. And she goes, that's correct. And I went, okay, thank you for sharing. I guess it's, it's not the worst thing that could happen. If I ever had to, I could go back to my generator. But what that means is you just make sure your batteries aren't that low if things are happening and you do everything you can to get them charged up and keep them up there so you don't have to go out there and deal with the backup generator. Not a stopper, especially when they're giving it to you for free. One of the reasons they're giving it to you for free is they plan to use these to help balance the grid. At times during the day, the busiest time during the day is from 4 o'clock to say 9 o'clock, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 5 hours. That's when most people use their power. They get off of work, they come home, they do all this stuff, and the power starts to drain and the grid starts to do weird things, and they want to be able to pull from people's batteries to help balance the grid. Well, that's fine, especially if you're going to give me free, 3 batteries for 40,000, you can pull all day long. I don't care. I guess unless it started affecting my bill and I wasn't able to kind of set it to zero to the point where I was essentially off the grid and not paying for any power through my utility company. If it affected that in a big way, then that could be an issue, So one of the things that we need to look at here is how this program works and what it does. So let's take a look. I mean, if you come back here, you can see you've got power flow, impact, backup history, and customize. Well, let's go look at some of these features here. Here is the power flow. Okay, we got solar going down to the power wall. Okay, and there'll be times when you see the grid light up and it's flowing from the grid to the home, or it's flowing from the grid to the power wall. And I know you're thinking, well, Dan, wait a minute, how can it flow from the grid to the power wall when you said they're not supposed to do that? It does that just for a couple seconds because it's communicating and talking, but it's not really backing up. So as you look at, the stats on it, it's not backing up to the power wall from the grid. Okay, but that's what you can see going on. Energy usage. So this, as you look up here, you'll see these different things. Like up here, you see a little sun and solar. That's yellow. That's the solar that's being generated. And this is today, as you can see up here, how much power we've got. And every time you see a spike that goes down, guess what? That was clouds. We got clouds out there today. And if there were no clouds, you wouldn't see any spikes going down. It would just be a solid thing up and then, smooth and come back down. So that's the energy coming in. The battery is what you're actually charging up. So we're charging the battery up with this solar, and you can see it's the exact same amount, really. One for one, I'm saying, hey, it was at 68. I want this thing charged up close to 100, and that's what I'm doing today. So I'm not on the battery right now, although I will be later on. Now, energy usage, this is what power came in from Edison. This little indicator up here, icon on the right, shows you down here, this is the power coming in from Edison, 2.8 kilowatts. And that's what we've been doing today. And that's the max up here. That's this spike. So different things are happening during the day. And that's what that looks like. And over here, we have energy usage in the home. Okay, so you notice we're over here on this blue icon. So that shows you it's basically the same thing. Everything that came in from Edison at 2.8 kilowatts went to the home and it's being used. Okay, that's great. A lot of good information here that it shows you. And here's all of them lit up at once because you can click on each one of them and turn these off and on. And this is what it looks like with them all on at the same time. Total energy usage. Okay, so this is yesterday. And this is a little something we need to talk about because this is when you start to, the rubber hits the road. If you look at this during the night, this was coming in from Edison and it was being used by the home. So that was the grid. And then during the day, we had some solar. Okay. And I was pretty much saying, hey, just give everything to the batteries because I want the batteries to get it. And so you can see the solar equals the batteries down here that we're charging. This little area in here, sometimes this stuff happens. I'm not quite sure why all of a sudden, it's not taking it from the sun and it's not giving it to the battery when I said that's what I wanted. And it does this kind of weird stuff where it comes in from the grid and it goes to the house. Haven't quite figured that out, but I will eventually. But that's not the big deal. Here's the big deal. What the heck is going on with this spike all the way up to 8.8 kilowatts and averaging at 6.6 kilowatts? What's going on there? That just happens to be our Chevy Volt. So at some point during the evening, and you can see this is about 6 in the evening, 8, 9, something like that, we plugged in the Volt to charge up. And that's what it looks like. It starts sucking up the power, okay? So what you're going to find out eventually is when you get an electric car, the usage in your home is going to pale compared to the power your car needs. And when you start hearing me say this and seeing this, you're thinking, I'm not going for an electric car. That sucks up too much power and it's going to raise my bill. Well, guess what? It's still going to be way less than paying for gasoline. So this just gives you an idea of what that car takes up. Now, that Chevy Volt is a 50-mile battery, okay? It will go about 50 miles on a charge. So, if it was drained completely, it takes with 220, because we've got a 220 charger in our garage, it takes about 4 hours to charge up. So, this is probably less than 4 hours that you're looking at. If my wife typically drives 25 to 30 miles a day, she never uses up the full amount. She comes home, we plug it in, and away we go. So, from that standpoint, we're good. But if we had a car that was like a Model 3 that would go 300 miles, if it was totally discharged, it would take a lot longer and a lot more juice to charge up. Now, our daughter just bought a Model 3 Tesla, and she has been charging it with 110. She has a 220. She's in our rental in Santa Barbara, and she's doing a fine job helping get us tenants in there. And, she gets a discount on her rent because she gets other people to pay rent. And so it makes it really good for her. But as she looked at that, she said, I might need that 220. And I said, okay, when you do, let me know. So she started using the 110 first just to see what that was like. Well, she only drives about 15 or 20 miles a day. She goes to work and then she comes back home, and she's not driving very much at all. So let's just say for some reason she was down to the 150-mile range and she had 150 miles to charge up. That means that every day she charged, which for her would be 8 hours, going to bed, getting back up, it's charging, but it never charges all the way because you're going only at 8 hours, and that's absolutely not enough time to charge up 150 miles, as you can see here from this chart. What would happen is every day that she charges at 8 hours a day, it would gradually get higher and higher and higher because she's just not going that far. So probably within 3 or 4 or 5 days, she would be up to, the max of that car. And then every day after that, she would come home and she would just charge a little bit and be back up to the top again. If she was to take off like she did a few days ago and leave town, well, she's going to charge at some charge station. And now she'll truly be using a fast charger and dealing with that when she's on the road. So she looked at me and said, I don't really even need a 220 charger. I don't go far enough every day to even need it. I'm fine just using the 110. So amazingly enough, amazingly enough for her and her use, if she's not driving very far and anybody else is not driving very far, 110 is all you're ever going to need to charge your Tesla, until you start driving long distance. And then you're going to need 220, and then you're going to need chargers out there on the road to get charged. So what does this mean for your power bill? I was looking at all this, trying to figure out, okay, so if we want to get to zero and never pay a dime, well, what happens? There is something that happened when we first got our solar 7 years ago, and it's called Net Metering 1. We signed up for Net Metering 1, and we're on it, and we're still on it. And basically, that means something that I just figured out a few days ago what it really means, is that you're on a one-to-one relationship with your power company. It's not about the rate. It's not about the time. It's not about how much or how little you use. It's about them giving you power with net metering, the meter, the new electronic meter that can spin backwards. And probably the old meters might spin backwards too. The new meters are just, smart. And so what happens is, let's say you got, 2.2 kilowatts or whatever you got for the day. I mean, I'm looking at ours and I'm thinking we're using anywhere from 30 to 40 kilowatts per day. So let's say we got 40 kilowatts for the day, and our solar came on and fed them back 20 kilowatts. Well, when we get our bill, they take 40 and they subtract 20 and they charge us at whatever rate for 20 kilowatts. It's that simple. It's a no-brainer. And that's what they did in the beginning to, get the ball rolling and get people to understand what's happening. And life was simple for everybody. So for us, there is no time of use. It doesn't matter when we use our solar, it's still one for one. We can use it in the busiest time of the day. We can use it at night. We can use it in the morning, whenever, whatever, charge whenever. It's just one to one. So the less we use them, really for everybody, even if you're in, time of use, the less you use them, the less you pay. But when you figure that we're one to one, let's say we had 2 electric cars and they both could go 300 miles each, and we were driving a whole lot. You'd be pulling a lot of power from the power company, and you'd be paying for it one way or another. And if you wanted to add more solar on your house, you could. For us, If we take a look at, maybe let me see what we got here. Here's, no, it wasn't there, but and I'm not quite sure. No, I don't. I've got some other things that show you some really cloudy days. What I've noticed here is that on a really cloudy day, you don't get very much solar and you don't get much power. And so if you're living in Europe and you're living in Canada or you're living in Russia and you're in real cold areas with a lot of wind, I mean, a lot of clouds and rain, you're not getting much solar, and therefore, wind generators are going to be of way more importance than they would be in some place like sunny Southern California. So, if you wanted to go totally off grid and just charge your cars, you could actually, put up a little carport. You could put up a charging system that would do nothing more than charge your cars, never hook them up to Edison, probably not even need a permit. Don't know, have to check on that. And still be hooked up with solar panels and backup batteries with your utility company, but you just wouldn't pull that much power because you've got your cars independent. So that's something that people are going to be thinking about somewhere in the future is how much power am I really pulling, and can I get that independent and not have it even be in my house system and not have to deal with the utility company with that at all? Yeah, I think you probably could. So that's, another consideration as time moves forward, how you're going to do that. Now, what they've done more recently, they've got time of use programs, and the time of use program right now for people who have electric cars is about 12 to 16 cents per kilowatt hour up to say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it jumps up to 30 and 40 and 45 cents per kilowatt hour from 4 o'clock until 9, and then it drops back to about 12 to 16 cents per kilowatt hour in the evening, so that you can charge in the morning, charge in the evening, but not during the middle of the day when it's going to cost you a lot of money. And if you have solar, and especially if you have backup batteries, you could use those backup batteries to easily get you from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, run off the battery and not run off of the grid, and you wouldn't be paying for them at all for whatever you're doing. But if you've got two electric cars going 300 miles and you're driving a lot, you're going to be using those things one way or another. And if you happen to do it during those hours, you're going to pay, I wouldn't be surprised, more than gasoline. So, you need to sit down and figure those numbers out. And you can't get on net metering one even if you wanted to, because we're grandfathered in. And they told us if you want more solar panels, if you want to hook up wind, anything that connects to the grid and deals with the power company, you're going to have to get a permit and you're going to have to give up your net metering one. They don't want anybody on net metering one. They've tried to shut that down nationwide. And when they try shutting things down and they don't want it to have anybody on it, it's for a good reason. They're giving too much away. They want to get you in a position where they get more from you than you give to them. And you've heard about, well, under use or whatever, time use, I can still give money back, but now they're giving you less of a rate. Let's say they give it to you at 35 cents per kilowatt hour, and when you give it back to them, they say, oh, we'll buy it back, but we're only going to buy it back for 5 cents per kilowatt hour. I don't know if those numbers are right. They're probably not, but I'm just telling you, that's the game that's being played. So what's going to happen in the future is people are going to look to go independent as much as they can to not have to deal with all that stuff. The government's not going to regulate it and not going to stop them from playing their game, but you and me, the customers, are going to regulate it by saying, hey, I'm going to figure out how to get rid of them, just like VHS and Beta. Blockbusters, goodbye. So, that might be 10 years down the road. It's hard to say, because it's going to take a while for the general public to catch up and for the electric cars to catch up. But eventually what will happen is when the utility companies see that everybody's figuring out how to do independent things, they're going to have no choice but to say, okay, we'll give you, a higher rate, or we'll match your rate or something. That's down the road. The way I kind of see it right now, it almost feels like with not being able to bury poles and the people who have the finances and the smarts to say, hey, we're going to get off the grid and we're just not going to pay the price. Utility companies, the grid nationwide to everybody, to me, starts to look like it's heading to be what I call a Section 8 grid. Basically, for all the people who don't have the money, don't have the wisdom, haven't been, researching and getting educated on this stuff, they're going to be relegated to an expensive power system in which, you know, it's going to cost them more and more as time goes on. And of course, they'll pull money from all the taxpayers to help them, which is fine, whatever. Uh, but personally, if you want the best that you can do for yourself, you're just going to have to continue to look at how you move into this game and how you play it. So I would think long and hard before I jumped out there and said, hey, I want solar panels, I want backup batteries, I want to get into this whole thing and hook me up to the grid. I would, contact the contractors, contact the installers, contact the suppliers and find out first, well, what can I do without going on the grid and do it legally? And how can I charge my electric car? If you don't have an electric car, I wouldn't worry about it too much, whatever. If you got a high bill, then you're going to have to start taking a look at solar and backup batteries. But if you're going EV and you're going electric cars, in any big way of driving, you want to start seriously considering how can I do that independently? And you can still hook up to the grid and you can still, do this balancing trick that everybody and myself were doing. But the less you put on your home, sucking up the power like electric cars, which are going to be a huge amount of suck, you want to think about this a little bit before you head down that road. Okay. And yes, can you qualify for, free batteries? Yeah, you can. It depends. We'll talk about that a little bit. Right now, for us to qualify, how did we qualify? Well, we had to be in a high fire area. We had to be on well water, which we are. We have to be in an area where they constantly turn off the power, which they have. And so we qualified. Well, during that 8-month qualification, and we headed down this road, they came back and said, oh, we're changing the rules. We're not going to let you qualify if you're in a high fire area with well water and all that, unless you happen to be low income. Well, how low is low income? That's a good question. And if you're really low, I hate to say it, but you're not going to qualify for a loan to get this thing up front, because they're not going to give a loan to somebody that's on low income. They just don't qualify for the loan. How they play that game, I'm not real sure. Us being retired, I'm 70. Who knows? Maybe when I have all my write-offs from whatever we're doing and they look at my taxes, they might say, Dan, you're absolutely low income. I don't know. I'd have to go spend some time researching that. But that's a question you want to ask yourself too now, because when you go look at SCE's website, it plainly states on there the low income factor. They did change that recently, but they assured me from emails from Edison that we're not going to say no to you because you were already in the process before this whole low income thing came out, so you should be fine. Well, is it bait and switch? I sent all my documents to our attorneys in Las Vegas, okay? And let me just show you that real quick, okay? I'm not going to show you the agreements. You can certainly email me, text me, whatever. But if you come back over to our website here, the Santa Barbara RIA, and you come down here and you see Anderson, these are our attorneys, legal, business, and tax advisors, okay? If you click on that, it will take you to their website, and guess what you see on their website? You get schedule your free strategy, and down below it says Anderson Business Advisors in partnership with Santa Barbara Real Estate Investor Association. So if you're a member, you get a discount. So yeah, did I cover that base too? I mean, that's kind of my whole life has been, well, where's the deal? Go find the deal. So that's something that I sent to them, and I said, hey, look at my contracts and tell me what's the likelihood of bait and switch here. And they looked at the contracts and they said, well, here's the red flag. The only thing checkbox that's not checked is where it says, I guarantee from the contractor, the developer, swell, and whatever, that you'll get this no matter what happens with these rebates and with the state and with Edison. We're going to guarantee you that you get it. And they didn't click that box. And he said, I don't know if that was an oversight. And I said, okay, probably not. I don't know. He said, but here's the deal, Dan. He said, no contractor, no developer is ever going to check that box. I've seen the contracts already from other people. They're not responsible for failing to qualify for the program. If the batteries in Tesla go bankrupt, they're not going to come up and give you some money, 40,000. If something happens, it's not their problem. It's the problem of the state of California, and it's the problem of the power company, Edison. So if you don't get your money back and you have to go to court, you're going to have to go to court locally in town and sue probably Edison for that $40,000. And I said, okay, I can do that. I've been to court a million times. I'll tell you, way back, I thought I never want to get into lawsuits and have to deal with all that stuff. I want to do real estate in a way that I never have to deal with it. And I, love property managers and didn't like attorneys. Well, I've done 180. I love attorneys, and I'm not too happy with property managers. Property managers have no vested interest in your properties. They just, they're getting their 10%, which never pay their bills. They have to make money off of turning the properties over, you know, 5,000, 10,000 to clean the place up. If you're a tenant and your property managers are treating you horribly, don't take it personally. They're just trying to turn over the property so they can make some money, you know? That doesn't make them the good guys. In my book, it makes them the bad guys, and I've seen that over and over. But that's what happens. And so I see this as still rolling the dice. It's still a gamble. We'll see, if we really do. I'll post something at some point that we really did get the check, or we got an electronic transfer to pay that off. And I did see on the state's website for SGIP program that they want to try to get this to the point where people don't have to get a loan and the equipment's just installed if you qualify. But that's not there yet. So I certainly understand why people would go, well, that's all great, Dan, but I'm not going to roll the dice and go play that game. And I understand that. That's okay. We are in a situation where we basically had to because we've got so many outages. In fact, let's go back over here and take a look at where we left off on these pictures. And let me just show you something here. Okay, so we were here. Okay, and this is the customization. So you can do backup mode only. You can do self-powered mode only. You can do an advanced mode, which has to do with time of use that you're paying on your bills, and storm watch. Make sure that all that power goes to your battery, even if the utility company wanted it. It goes to your battery first to make sure you're covered. So I don't really use advanced because we're not under time of use. We're under net metering 1, and I go back and forth between backup only and self-powered. Backup only just says, hey, we want every bit of power to go to that battery, and we're not going to put any of that battery on the house to get rid of Edison until we feel like it, and then we can go down to self-powered mode. And self-powered mode says, what do you want? You want 100% or you want whatever percent? Right now it's looking like we'll probably stay at 50%. We'll make sure we got enough power, and then during some point of the day, we'll use those batteries to decrease the amount that we're relying on Edison. So during the day when we're charging, we're not relying on Edison. We wouldn't do it then. Somewhere in the evening, maybe between 4 and 9, but for us it doesn't really matter because we're on net metering 1, we'll use the battery. And then later on in the evening, we will go to Edison to pick up a little bit of power till the sun comes up and continue on. So we'll play that game and balance it. We'd probably be 100% off the grid right now, and maybe still will be with this Chevy Volt. But I can see the day that if ever my wife had an electric vehicle that was 300 miles, and I had an electric vehicle that was 300 miles, and we were out driving a lot, which we're probably not going to do at our retirement age. but it would be the case for many of you out there that are, full into, working away from home and going back and forth. At that point, you'd seriously need to look at some kind of independent carport, solar, wind, backup, power your cars, and just kind of take that off your house altogether and have your house be what interacts with your power company and your solar and whatever battery. At that point, you'd only need one battery maybe. And the truth is, in about 6 months, they're going to have vehicle to grid starting to show up. And vehicle to grid, what that means is you could use an electric vehicle as your backup battery. Now, personally, I think you need to have, well, you do. You really need to have something like one Tesla battery or this other thing that's coming out from other companies that will give you a little bit of power to keep the solar on, and then bring in that car as your emergency backup so that it powers your house, and then take it off after that's done and plug that back into your independent, carport charger. So that would be kind of my take on that situation for you people who are, you can see that's where you're going to end up, at least until you retire. Um, that's the game that you can play to reduce those bills, because those bills are going to go up. What was it? 30 years ago, the average electric bill was $30, and now the average is probably getting 300 in a lot of places. And we tell people, hey, in another 30 years, it's going to be $3,000, and people go, never happened. Well, the average home in Santa Barbara is a 3-bedroom dumpy track house for $1.5 million. Who would have ever guessed that? So all this stuff is going up. So we just have to be prepared and deal with it. So here was our little problem right there. We've had this thing for just a few days now. Look at that. November 19th, Edison shut the power down for 7 hours while they did more work on the power poles. November 18th, 2 days in a row, 7 hours, shut it down again. Interesting. 7 hours and 46 minutes. Boy, they must have had that on a timer. 2 days in a row. November 15th, a few days back, we were down for 9 hours. And I could see these other 2 days coming in a row. That's why I made that phone call and found out, oh, there's a mandate. We can't use the grid to charge them up. Great. Now we have another one going out on the 30th of this month. So in a few more days, the power is going to go out again. So as you can see, this has been going on for us for a year and a half. And who knows where the end will be. It's just been really bad for our particular area. And we're so happy to be past that and kind of have that solved. So that's where we are. I mean, what can I say? We're at 2:12. I've gone through my hour. There's the view from our home. It's like time to hang up our live Facebook meeting here, unless I've got some questions from people out there. I'll take a look and see if we've got any. But that's a view from our front room window. My wife and I will sit back and go, ooh, okay, it's time to let the batteries power things up and break open a bottle of wine or some champagne or something and celebrate, because I got through another one. Let's just take a quick look here. We were at 93, now we're at 95. So yeah, and what time is it? It's 2, 3, 4. We got 2 more hours. We'll definitely be at 100% before the day is up. And then I'll switch it back over to our 50/50 usage, and away we go. So that's kind of it. I'm going to, let's see here, stop sharing the screen. Hey, and we're back. And that was a whole lot of information there. I am thrilled that I was in this opportunity to be able to share this with you from the standpoint of actually having it in place and it's working. I see so many things on the internet out there that go, I'm so excited, I just got this today and I hope it works great. I really want to hear the story like a year from now. How did it work? Not, I hope it works. Okay. And yeah, we're barely there because it's been only a few days, but it's working. And so the big question is, will we get paid back? I'm thinking we got at least a 95% chance that we do get paid back, so I'm not too worried about it. And if we didn't, and we failed in that 5%, wouldn't be the first time I got a bait and switch. Probably won't be the last time. So I think that it'll work out. And if it didn't, again, the worst, my wife looked at me and said, we break even. If you have 350, 350, now we have the ability to not have to worry about it. And believe me, when I'm gone and I'm out of here for a week at a time, like I'll go down and take care of my dad for maybe 1 week every other month. He's 97, still driving, got his driver's license. I helped him, go to the DMV and get that. So when I'm gone and the power fails, guess who is stuck kind of dealing with all this stuff? My wife. And now she didn't have to be. She can just go, oh, the power went off? I didn't know that. That's like, that's worth a glass of champagne, I think. Um, so I think that's pretty much it. Let me just take a look over here and see if I've got any questions from anybody on any of this stuff up here. Let me take a quick look, and I'm going to come over to the Facebook page and just look and see if there was any comments here. Okay, I don't see any people asking any questions, and that's okay. Not a problem. My job is just to keep putting the content out there and giving people a chance to be able to see what's going on, hear what's going on. Um, I feel very fortunate that I'm in the position I'm in to be able to do what I'm doing. Living here in the mountains of Santa Barbara, running the Santa Barbara RIA, which is basically free. Um, I was quite surprised. I'm going to come back up here since we don't have questions right now, I'm going to come back up here and share the screen again for a moment and come back over here to the Santa Barbara RIA. And just so you know, we've got Anderson there. We've got this article that came out by Anderson from one of their employees. And I looked at that and I went, oh my God, that thing's been out there for almost a year. I didn't have a line on it. I had no clue it was even there. And this goes through and he talks about the Santa Barbara Real Estate Investor Association and other RIAs and the value and what to look for, what to expect, and really gave us some, good reviews about the fact that it's all free being a member of the Santa Barbara RIA, which I run and I have been running for 10 years or however long it's been, because I can. People, say, well, Dan, why are you doing that for free? And my answer is, well, because I can. And that's kind of my gift. The personal power project was something I created out of some meetings of something I was going to a long time ago, and which was Landmark. And we were doing projects, and I wanted to get some kind of project that was just kind of a giveaway and a help thing. And so that came out of that. And really, the Santa Barbara RIA is kind of the same thing. It's a giveaway. I just feel fortunate that I'm in a position where I can give something away and give something back. Let me get the out of the share, stop the sharing again. That I can give something back. Sure, I'd like to have $1 billion, but I don't want to work that hard. And I appreciate the people who do work that hard. Um, I'm just amazed at somebody like Warren Buffett or Elon Musk who, you know, does what they do and works as hard as they work. And thank God they love what they do. And I'm loving what I do. And that's the whole thing is, success is really what financial level do you have to be at to be happy? And I've heard some people say, "Oh yeah, I know this woman that, she had a house, she rented it out, she made enough money on her rent to go travel 6 months out of the year in Europe and just live however she wanted to and could afford to, but she was thrilled to do that." That's happiness. Whatever your happiness is, wherever you can find happiness in that financial lifestyle is your happiness. You know, uh, the more that we can just say, hey, as much as I can quit comparing myself to somebody else and start comparing myself to me and say, hey, am I a better me than I was yesterday? That's all that matters. Am I happier than I was yesterday? That's all that matters. Are there times when I go crazy? Well, I was the first one to say, Marshall, I was the biggest pain in the ass in this whole thing. because, that whole bait and switch, if I'm going to promote this, I don't want people in a bait and switch. I want them to know what to expect. I want them to know how to maneuver around all this BS and either roll the dice or not and do things that work for them and for me. So, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be putting more stuff out. If there's things that you don't have the time for, but you want to know something about it, I probably got the time and I will be researching it and I'll be figuring it out and I'll be putting it out there. And whether I have 100 people or 200 people showing up for the meetings or not, the content's going to be out there. You can access it. I've got years worth of speakers on the Santa Barbara RIA going back to YouTube, just so you can do one last little screen share of YouTube. Let's go take a quick look at that. And then I'm out of here. Let's go look at YouTube. Okay, there's YouTube and there's Dan Ringwald. This is my YouTube side. So you can see this thing comes up. This was my last meeting. That was my last meeting with Dutch Mendel, and that was all tax information. There is a video up there on YouTube now that's like 2 hours. And, here's all these videos from all these speakers from the past. It's not just me. It's speakers. And, if I'm going to put content up there, it's going to have to be probably more me, because I'm going to have to go out there and find that content that you guys want and that I want and that we're all happy to share and deal with. And I'll be doing it. So I want to thank you very much for making it to this meeting of the Santa Barbara RIA. It is November 21st, 2020. We just made it through almost a year of the pandemic. Wow. Is this crazy times? It's crazy times. And all I can say is be safe, be healthy, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Thanks for being here. Okay, we're signing off. Quit the recording.